as you have seen, I've been really trying to campaign, which
Thank you.
hasn't
Thank
been
you.
hard to do because your work has already been campaigning itself. It's incredible. Like I cannot emphasize enough to you. I'm very, very ingrained in Bad Batch community specifically. I'm
Mhm.
even in this like Discord server. All we do is talk about this book. Like it's fantastic. They all wanted me to get across. I know we're going to touch on some fan questions at the end of my
Sure, sure.
and those are literally all from fans on in this Discord server I'm in and also fans on Twitter as well. So these are like actual Bad Batch fans. So I was like, if you could ask anything, I have three copies because I just had to make sure I got them all. This one is, I just wanted to show you because I have it annotated. It's kind of hard to see, but I literally have highlights, notes. This is my precious copy that has everything. It didn't matter. That was like my fourth time reading because I already had it on Kindle for my advanced copies. So I have, definitely threaded through the pages of this book. And I hope that the questions and everything we discussed kind of is a testament to that and to this incredible story you created with these characters we love. Obviously, as you see, I have more Bad Batch collection, but it's kind of hiding on my shelves. So
Oh, no, no, so like I said, I've noticed you've been a huge cheerleader, and I so appreciate it. And I'm glad we have a chance to talk face to face.
that makes me so happy. I'm so glad. So I'm gonna get right into it, starting with my questions. And
Sure.
there is a lot, so I'm sorry. And if there's anything that you're like,
No,
we
that's
should
fine.
for my first question, of course, I have to ask about my favorite character, which is Hunter. I stole him from my living room because my roommate and I are both major fans. So you mentioned that of the Badgers, you actually relate to Hunter the most because of his competent anxiety. And actually always seen that in him in the show too, but it was just a little more subtle in the show because it's not as
Mhm.
to dig into it. So what was it like to bring that side of him out like alongside his more tougher warrior nature that he's known for as a soldier?
Well, for one, to be able to bring it out beside the warrior side, it felt very personal because I am not a highly skilled clone soldier, but
Yeah.
I feel every bit of the stress and fear that I think he feels in trying to take care of his family. So being able to put them together in the book, it actually felt soothing for me because I was putting it into a person who can handle most situations and who knows what to do and who knows they can protect whoever they need to protect. And so that part was a bit of a wish fulfillment that I got to do because I get to put the parts of myself that really worry me the most into the most capable individual possible who also shares those anxieties.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. That's a great point too. I feel like I relate to a lot of parts of Hunter too. It's probably part of the reason why he's one of my favorites. Just like being very, very protective, very, like very concerned with the well-being of everyone that he's with, burden of responsibility, but like very capable individual. So that sounds like it was probably a fun challenge.
I mean, writing everyone on the team was like probably the best. It didn't feel like work most of the time. And
Yeah.
that's that I'm working on a personal novel now that's one of my own original pieces, and it's a struggle. And I think back to when I was writing the batch, and I'm like, I miss those days a little bit.
Well, I know a lot of us, obviously, we love to write the batch as well. So
Yeah,
that's the reason why they're just such great, incredible personalities. And we'll get to that a little bit more later with some other questions too. But
sure.
now I would never move on from Hunter in if I had it my way. But some of my other favorites and, just in general, but also their dynamic in this book, Tech and Fee. I've always loved Tech and Feet, so I know you have made so many people happy with Tech and Feet in this book. And I personally believe that they are the beating heart, or one of the most important beating hearts throughout the entire narrative. And their relationship is definitely one of the most compelling parts of the story. So, what was your personal favorite moment to write between them in the story, and why was it your favorite?
So my favorite moment to write was probably them going grocery shopping at a certain point in the middle of the book. And the thing is, this is something that has like stuck with me for many, many years through all my various fandoms, whether it's comic books, Star Wars, or anything else. I'm obsessed with fantastic people doing mundane things because I love the idea of how would this group handle a grocery list. And I think that I just think it's one of those core things of a strong interpersonal relationship. And I just think about even when I go shopping for my house and my wife has made the list. I went shopping on Sunday and one item on the she put on the list. The single item was meatball slash peanut butter. You know, and I knew she meant them to be separate,
Yes.
but it's one of those things where it's like, you're in the moment, and I just love the idea of like these like essentially almost superhuman individuals with the things they pull off, having to negotiate like, okay, well, I don't like that coffee, but we got your coffee last time, or do they have the cereal that you want? That stuff's fantastic to me because I've seen every single iteration of save the city, save the world, save the universe. Rarely see you go to Costco.
Yes, and that's how you can tell you've been in fandom for like, because that is something I feel like us in fandom especially, we just want to see our
Mhm.
superhuman capable, people doing these normal things. And that, yeah, I love the part where Bee's just talking about, like looking for calf powder when
Mhm.
having a very serious conversation about future family. Like it's
Yeah, yeah.
a good balance. I love it. But kind of along those similar lines, still with Tech Bee. One of my favorite moments is when they're playing a little bit coy about the hotel room arrangements. Literally made me like shout out loud. I was like, there's no way. Um, it was obviously left open-ended, but in your personal opinion, so it's all just what you would believe. Doesn't have to necessarily be like,
Yeah.
you know. Um, do you think that they actually ended up having, shared arrangements or no?
Okay, if I'm being honest and what I think happened, I think there were enough rooms for everybody to have their own room.
Yeah,
Um, I think that's probably most likely what happened.
yeah,
And the reason I'm veering that way is because a big theme in this book is that you should say and do the stuff that needs to be said and done while you have time. And in this situation, Tech and Fee both have no clue there's not a lot of time.
yeah,
So they're not acting in with that sort of urgency.
yeah.
So that's why I think it didn't go that way.
Mhm.
With different knowledge or different just a different sort of perception of the future,
Yeah.
maybe it goes another way.
Yeah, no, that's such a brilliant point, and that's one of the things that makes their relationship in the book. It's so, like beautiful, but also heartbreaking. Like the one
Mhm.
line you have about like Tech saying like he liked a lot of what she said and did. He should tell her soon, and you're like, no, I know how this ends. Um, yeah, I wonder if there's a second parallel universe as well, where maybe like one of them stood at the other's door but didn't go in, and then the other one stood at the other person's door but they were inside and didn't go in. That would be like that. I feel like is
Well, one thing, like this is me speaking as a fan. I don't have any sort of say so
yeah,
or
no,
any
yep,
kind of sway this way.
yep,
One thing I've always said is I wish there was something like a what if situation for Star Wars, where you could
yeah,
explore these things that wouldn't be canonical, but
mhm.
you could get into exactly what we're talking about here.
Yeah, yeah. In your tech fee, what if would they have a family, a big family?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, if I got to do a what if, I mean, because essentially, and I don't know if we'll get into this, but essentially, when I wrote um, Soha and Ponder in
Hmm.
their situation, my intent was that to be sort of a version of what Tech and Fee could have been.
Yeah. Hmm. I remember seeing you say that. I think you said it to Star Wars Explained because yes, I did.
Mm.
I did watch all those too. I was like,
Yeah.
I was too excited. Yeah, that's such a good parallel. So heartbreaking. And there's so many parallels. I know we get to more parallels later in my
Sure, sure.
but yeah, that is that's so good. I love all of that and parallel universes. If only we could do what ifs. But we're gonna slightly pivot to something that I personally loved in the book, which is that we actually got to explore the Marauder more because we love the
Mm.
Marauder. We see a lot of her, but we also don't see a lot of her in the show. Like, so what was it like designing that space from like introducing Hunter's quarters and like the small galley and things like that?
Well, I don't know that I designed it. I think I'm terrible at interior design, like trying to figure out spaces because there was a lot of times because when you do one of these books, you work with story team and they help you out when you don't know exactly what to do. And
Yeah.
I wasn't clear on how much space there was inside the Marauder. So a lot of times they were like, "You can't do that. It's not big enough." I'm like, "What do you mean? It looks big enough. It looks big enough to me." Can't. And they were like, "No," but and so I got a lot of direction there. I I still don't have a super clear picture of exactly how much space and how they move in that space. And I'm curious, do you know, are there any cross sections of the Marauder? I feel like there wasn't.
Not
Yeah,
officially.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
not
I think
officially.
because I finished this about a year ago. So like it was like last August when we were wrapping it up. So that's what I remember. I was asking like, are there cross sections I could look at in any of the various, art books? And I don't think there was. So in my mind, I really just leaned on Story Team because they were telling me like, hey, you're making it way too big. I was like, I think it should be that big though.
So wait, I'm curious, like out of
Yeah,
curiosity, what were,
yeah.
do you remember any of the suggestions that, if you can say, it's okay if you can't, that you might have made that were like, they were like, no, that's too big.
Well, I thought there was enough room for everyone to have individual quarters,
Mm,
like starship bedrooms almost.
yeah.
And apparently, there's not enough room for that.
Mm,
So there has to be like these alternate arrangements with bunks and things. And
mm,
it put me in the mindset of like a tour bus almost.
yeah.
And so that was one thing where I thought it would be different. And Story Team says, no, it's really not that big. So
Yeah.
everybody wouldn't have their own room. So
Yeah.
that's something I learned.
Yeah. I'm kind of obsessed with the idea that they're like, okay, Hunter, I guess. Everybody else.
Yeah, yeah.
Go.
Or like maybe they rotate it. Like maybe it's a certain amount of time. Where it's like, okay, you get the private quarters for this amount of time, and then we switch
Yeah.
up. You know?
Yeah. But they all know that Hunter needs a brooding place.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
he's got to have
And then
his.
they probably need a break from that. So they're like, hey, go to your room.
I know that's like, it's like Hunter's like, Omega, go to your room. They're like, no, Hunter, you need to go to your room. Like, you need time, we need time. And especially when Crosshair was, still around, they were like,
Yeah, yeah,
they would both rotate. It's like, all right, Crosshair, you need to go to the room. Put them in timeout. Oh goodness, that's fun. So actually, speaking of Crosshair, this question, little asterisk next to it, because so my dad is the reason why I'm such a huge Star Wars fan because he introduced me to Star Wars from birth. So we're very close, especially where Star Wars is concerned. He loves the Bad Batch. He loves tech. He is tech in real life. Like he literally does tech for work. Like he's
Oh,
IT.
nice,
So
nice.
he loves tech and he was so excited about this book. I got him to read the book. He just finished it a few days ago and he really loved it. And so this question I made actually lines up with the question he wanted to know about, and it has to do with Crosshair. So I
Okay.
was really impressed that you were able to make Crosshair feel like he was a part of the story, even though he wasn't physically in it until he was a little bit. So first, I just want to say, do you realize how big of a justice you did by having Hunter acknowledge that he misses him? Because that's a battle we've been fighting for years. But then secondly, how did you decide on what that dream sequence would look like? And then if there's anything else you want to say about the dream, we'd love to hear.
Sure. Well, one thing, because at that point their relationship is in flux,
Yeah.
the first level of the dream sequence was it can't be a stable place. Like I felt like it had to be something in motion because they hadn't settled anything between them at that point. And then to just make it very clear that it was a dream and not like a flashback or something else, I was
Mhm.
like, okay, well, I'll put them on the outside of the Marauder in hyperspace.
Mhm.
And that way it's very clear that this is not a real situation, even though, and I think I set it up a little earlier in the book where it said that Hunter often dreams of Crosshair.
Yeah. Hmm.
So that was the two things. I'm like, it can't be a stable place, and I want to establish it's a dream very quickly. So sitting on the outside of a ship in hyperspace pretty much does that.
Hmm. Yeah. I literally, the reaction I had to the first part where, like I said, Hunter often dreamed of Crosshair was visceral in a good way. I was like, oh my gosh. And then this came along, and I'll have you know, like unashamedly, that was that I cried. I know I'm not the only,
Oh,
no, I'm not the only one. And I don't like, I don't cry at books easily just because I usually can compartmentalize, but I was, yeah, but in a good way, all in a good way. But that
oh, I'm
is,
glad.
thank you for sharing that breakdown because I didn't even like, that is so to have the like I feel like I had the understanding of it not being a stable place just because that, but now that you've explained it, it's like, of course, like that makes so much sense. And I love that they're younger too, like a little bit younger. But also the placement of them sitting on the Marauder, I don't know if you know this, you probably don't, but that's a huge headcanon in the fandom is like that those two specifically used to sit on top of the Marauder. It's
I didn't
completely
know that.
made. But it shows
Mm.
how in tune you are with us. There's literally the first thing I thought of was this brilliant fan art by this incredible artist named Zaina, and
Mm.
there was a drawing of them on top of the Marauder, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's like
Is that drawing somewhere public?
I think so. I can send you the link on
Yeah,
Instagram.
send me a link sometime. I would love to see it.
Yeah, yeah, it's stunning. It's actually they're up there, and they're like I think in that specific art, they're like smoking cigarettes together, which is kind of funny. But like still, they're sitting on top of the marauder, and I was like, well. But there's also
I would love to see it.
somebody drew this dream sequence, so I'll send that to you to make sure you see it because somebody
Oh,
drew.
thank you, thank you.
Also one, I don't know if you saw, but somebody drew Hunter and Omega in their coats on my Vito, and it was really cute. So
Yeah, I see, and so I don't, I'm not online a lot, and
yeah.
I'm not in the Discord community. Like this is my view of it. Like me being a writer
Mhm.
who has put this out, I think fan spaces are sort of off limits to me at this point.
Yeah.
Like I need to let readers have their space to talk about whatever without me being in there. And so I don't see a lot of what you're saying, but if there's stuff out there, public, particularly art, I love to see what people do. I just love art in general.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if you're okay with it, you don't mind me like maybe spamming, if I'm like, here, I
No,
will
please send me.
whatever
Oh,
I
please
see
do,
that's
please do.
publicly posted because I definitely there have been a few. So I'll make sure I go through because I always put them on my story. So I'll like go through, I'll send them to you to make sure you see them and because they're obviously this fandom's very talented. There's a lot of stuff I still
Yeah,
haven't seen illustrated. I'd love to. If I could draw, I would have been drawing every page of this book. I really would have been.
I'm
Um,
so envious of people who can do that. Like that's not a
I
skill that I
know
have.
because
Yeah,
obviously I'm a writer as well. It's what
yeah,
I so
yeah.
I am like, "Oh, we got the talent. We can draw with our words, but I cannot draw. It's just not a gift I was given. But yeah, okay, I'll send you all of those. But we're gonna pivot now to Omega. I'm trying to
Yes,
touch on every character here a little bit.
yeah.
So
Let's do it. I mean, that's what we're
obviously
here for.
obviously, Omega is like she's such a brilliant character, and you captured her perfectly, in my opinion, with just everything she accomplishes in this novel specifically. How did you go crafting those pieces of her backstory on Camino that inform just how smart and capable she is, like in the birth scene and everything kind of like that?
Well, it sort of came to me in the middle of drafting. I don't know if I had it from the beginning, but it got to the point of that birth scene where it was like, okay, there has to be a problem and someone has to solve the problem. And it's like, who's the most likely candidate? And I didn't, and like I said, I didn't get it right away because sometimes you hit these moments in the middle of the draft. You know how it goes, and
Yup.
it's like, all right, I need to take a let me get back to it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And in one of those moments, it occurred to me like, wait, Omega's been in labs most of her life on Camino where the clones were made. She probably has a working knowledge of the science that most experts wouldn't have.
Yeah.
So, and whatever's going on with Soha and the baby, maybe she flags it as a clone issue that she has seen before.
Hmm.
So I wake up the next day, I'm like, I got it. And that's pretty much how that evolved. But it was one of those things where it was like sometimes you hit this problem that you can't solve right away. And the way I've trained myself, the sort of writer I am, is like, how do you solve these problems with what's already there?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, Mega's right there.
Yep, yeah. And it's always funny because I feel like those moments of revelation always come when you can't jot it down right away. Like usually I'm driving, I'm like, okay, I need to
Yeah,
read
yeah,
this for like 20 minutes.
yeah. Got to go for a walk, that sort of thing. And then it
Yeah.
hits you.
Yup, yup, yeah. And it was brilliant. I also love the other tidbit of her backstory where she talks about the Kaminoans making like miniature sized creatures. And of course it explains why, she feels so like even more compelled to help creatures than most people. I mean, that is just her nature, but it also is nice to kind of be like, oh, like
And that all came from I just wanted to get a tiny creature in that opening scene. I'm like, that would be fun.
and
I'm
I
like,
love
yeah, that'd be fun to get a tiny
that.
creature.
It was so on brand. And I love that it was a
Yeah,
little Gundark too, because
yeah, yeah.
Gundark lore in Star Wars, I don't know, it was perfect. And then the way that it interacted. One thing I noted on my most recent reread actually is probably super inconsequential, but
Mm.
especially when it comes to Hunter, I just overanalyze everything because I love his character so much. So like the fact that like Teacup kept coming up around his ankles made me laugh because I'm like, he can sense who's like,
Yeah.
tense in this moment, and obviously he's always tense. He's working. But now we're going to go to Wrecker, who I feel like I embody Wrecker energy the most in my life, even if, Hunter's my favorite, but I feel very Wrecker. And you really did Wrecker such a wonderful service in the story because you brought his silly nature to life, but you also emphasized his emotional intelligence and the true depth of his knowledge and just overall intelligence as well. And I just want to know, were there any particular Wrecker moments you looked to from the show to inform those crucial aspects of his character? And then what do you think about the idea kind of like Wrecker passing down these heroic traits to Omega? Because I do feel like there's a lot of like Wrecker to Omega kind of inspiration.
Well, the one record scene that I thought of, and it's going to seem a little counterintuitive because he doesn't behave this way in the book, but I always think about when his inhibitor chip activated
Mhm.
and how, like, in that moment, he's like the most dangerous being in the immediate vicinity. And
Mhm.
I know that he remembers that.
Yeah.
And so the thing that informed me was at the end of that episode when they took the chip out, how he wakes up and he immediately ruffles Omega's hair.
Mhm.
So that's part of why they have the moments they have because in my mind, I'm thinking that's the truest form of record.
Yeah.
And the activated inhibitor chip form of him is what he's most scared of.
Mhm.
And so I wanted to write him as far away from that scary version as possible.
Yeah.
So that's what informed a lot of my record decisions. And then
Mhm.
in terms of him interacting with Omega, I mean, it just I don't know that I had a plan in mind. I just really had fun with them together.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, I mean, he's to me, he's the funnest one of the group. And I think someone Omega's age would gravitate towards that and they'd have a lot to share with each other.
Yeah, yeah. I love writing Wrecker, when I just get to do my writings for fun. I think he's so fun to do
Mhm.
and definitely with Omega as well. And yeah, they're very they scream like, like siblings to like older
Yeah,
brother and little
yeah,
sister. It's so
yeah.
cute. I love their dynamic and obviously in this book. I think also I love Wrecker's dynamic with Hunter in this book. Of course, I'm gonna be like, of course, here she goes, bring up
Mhm.
Hunter. But like it's very because we know again what's coming, which is kind of ironic. I know this question is going to be coming up soon, but like I know at least when you were drafting this, season three was not a thing
Yeah.
at all. But it's very true to what we see that dynamic that we see.
Well, so here's the thing. When I was first approached and when we were working on the outline that needed to be approved before I could actually start, season three hadn't happened yet.
Right.
But while I was waiting to see if my outline got approved, season three did drop. So some of it did
Oh.
inform this book because I was able to watch all the episodes as I was starting the draft.
Okay, that's actually that's
Yeah.
really useful though, because I'm sure that that was something you were like, how am I gonna
Yeah, I
do
was scared. I was scared because you probably heard me say this before in one of the other interviews. Like, I was told not to contradict anything that came before or
Yeah.
after. I'm
Mhm.
like, well, I don't know what's coming. Like,
Yeah.
which I mean, and I don't know if you have questions that lead to this, but I'll just allude to this. That's why I had to create several new characters in a planet or two
Right.
because that was the only way I could guarantee that I wasn't going to crash into anything. If I made it up, I knew it wasn't going to be in season three.
Yeah, yeah. And honestly, that was a good approach. But yeah, there'll definitely be like something about kind of season three working into it.
Mhm.
I'll probably reword my question a bit because I was like, oh, it makes sense because there was just some moments where I was like, I don't know. This feels
Yeah,
like even in the dream sequence felt very like it paralleled Hunter and Crosshair making up in the return.
yeah.
And I was like, yeah, like it was, and there's other things too, and I'll bring those up at that point. But as we've already discussed, I have been trying really hard to campaign the book because I know I and many others would love to get a second Bad Batch book. So if that were to ever happen, and of course they brought you back, what part of the Bad Batch story would you like to write next? Is there anything like it doesn't have to be necessarily in the show's timeline. It could be before, it could be after. I have my idea of what I would love to see from you, but I'll save that till you share yours.
I would love to write in the time frame after. Like I would love to write an adult a mega story where she has to call in the clones as older clones.
Yeah.
And I think there'd be some fun stuff to play with there with Omega coming into her own as an adult and sort of that clash that I think all young adults, and when I say young adults, I don't mean like the book category where it's really teenagers who are still in their parents' house. I mean like adults over the age of 18 or 21 who still butt heads with parents who don't recognize they are that old.
Yeah.
And so I think there's just a lot of fun stuff to play there. I don't have any clue of what that story would be if I got a chance, but I'm almost certain that's the time frame I'd want to work in.
Yeah, I could see it now. It would be like I feel like Hunter and Crosshair are just giving her the most trouble because they're both very
Mhm.
active, and then Wrecker is like trying to be very supportive. So he's like, guys,
Mhm.
come on, calm down.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I would love that. And literally, like I said, I would love to see anything you would tackle next. But one just based off of the dynamic that I was literally just talking about with Hunter and Wrecker, if you did something, and it doesn't have to just be them, but something
Yeah,
between season 2 and 3,
yeah,
there's so much time and so much dark stuff that's implied for those two. And then of course
yeah.
there's not a ton of wiggle room there, so I understand why that would probably be more difficult, but I would love that. I know something that we're aiming for. It doesn't necessarily have to be a novel, but we I want to see the Bad Batch's cadets as well, like when they're younger.
Well,
Um,
I mean, I'll say this, and like, there's no plans. I don't have anything on the
yeah.
docket, but I mean, I'd be more than willing to write more Bad Batch if I got the call. Like, I think everybody over there is aware. Like, I love this stuff. So if there's something they would like to bring me back for, I'm here.
Yeah, well, and you're incredible at it, so they should. Like, I know we all would be like, yes, more from Lamar, because yeah, it's still very surreal to think because it hadn't been many years since it was officially announced, and we may or may not have, found out about it earlier just because people were looking on like the Penguin Random House website and they were like,
I remember I remember that when that happened,
we're
and
like,
I got it. I got an email that was like, "Hey, just so you know, this page went up, and it was. I mean, it wasn't a big deal. I don't think.
no, it wasn't, because it was just us being like,
Yeah,
and there was no plot synopsis yet. Like
yeah,
it was literally just the name. We were like, what? But yeah, it's and of course a lot of people, and me included, like get a little nervous because very protective over the characters. I know I said
sure.
one of my reviews, but could not have been like it just blew all our expectations out of the water. It just all
I'm
made I
I'm
am
glad.
I am hoping to get that all across very much. But now we're gonna pivot to some of the parallel kind of questions I brought up or
Sure.
referenced earlier. So Hunter and Omega, probably one of my favorite dynamics in all of Star Wars, like probably top two with Mando and Grogu. Very similar. But Hunter and Omega's father-daughter relationship means a lot to me and a lot of other people. And you portrayed them so well throughout the book, just very meaningful. And I know you mentioned that a lot of it had to do with you having your own daughter around the time that this was a thing, like becoming a thing, and how that developed as you were writing. So, which moment, though, between Hunter and Omega was the most emotional or meaningful for you to write, and why did it carry that weight?
Well, I think there's two moments I'd like to speak to.
Okay, yes.
Um, there's a moment early on at the auction house where they're on comms, and Hunter's sort of like kind of chastising her for being out of position.
Hmm.
And she's making the very valid point of, hey, we do this stuff all the time. There's really no in position once things get going because something always has to be improvised. And
Yeah.
that I would my daughter's only 4, but already we'll have these situations where I'm like, sweetie, don't move. Like we're getting out of the car, we're close to a street or something. And even now she's like, Daddy, there's no cars coming. And she's right. She's correct. But I'm still like in my mind, like I can't let you get close to the road no matter what. A car may appear. It's like that's
Yeah.
just and so that scene itself was just me dealing with like the little bits of growth my daughter is already going through. And
Mhm.
so that's emotional because that time goes fast. I don't know if that's anything your dad has ever expressed to you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We,
yeah.
yeah.
So like I'm sure in his mind you he remembers you being 4 like it's yesterday. So that idea of like the independence is already coming.
Yeah.
And then sort of on the other side of that is when they're walking around town square and she's saying like really poignant stuff to him. And in that moment it feels like he's the one who's getting life advice from her. And
Hmm.
I could just imagine that in my future too.
Yeah.
And so anytime they were having those sorts of conversations, all I can think about is either I'm already doing this with my kid and she's only 4, or someday she's gonna be like doing a version of parenting me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that we get both with Omega being the same age. And it makes
Mm-hmm.
sense because she is technically older than them, which is funny.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's funny. But also like it just is And especially because you that like the moment you just mentioned, we get that direct reference to what comes in the epilogue of the show.
Mhm.
And like that was just fantastic. Like I love that Hunter kind of has this vision of like, oh my gosh, like when she's gonna get older and like leave her own adventure and like instead of feeling like too weighed down by it, it's this hopeful feeling. And that meant a lot to me because one of my favorite Hunter quotes in the show is when he says there just might be hope for us yet to Crosshair. And now that it's in this book that he felt hope, I'm like, maybe he was thinking about this specific thing. It's just really cool. But yeah, I love that. But continuing in the spirit of the father-daughter things. So there are lots of father-daughter pairings in this book. You have, of course, Hunter and Omega, and then you have Crane and Sohai, and you have Ponder and Koru. All very different dynamics. But what do you hope is the reader's biggest takeaway with this particular motif between fathers and daughters, and especially in relation to the Batch's story as it continues from this book on?
Well, so the biggest takeaway from the father-daughter pairings, don't be Crane.
Yes.
Like, I mean, if I mean, I think that's pretty obvious in how the book shakes out, but it's also my commentary on, like, I don't want to sit here like I have the correct way to parent. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I have seen father-daughter pairings that basically make me cringe. And I don't want that for me and my daughter. And what I hope if you pick up on all the pairings here, there are of the three you named, there are two that are preferred and one you should avoid completely. So that's the thing I want any parent to recognize in that. In terms of in relation to the ongoing story, um, I think Hunter and Omega, like I'm very interested to see how those teenage years go. I
Yeah.
think, I mean, to your point, it's probably a good place to tell some stories.
Mhm.
Um, and also, again, beyond that, as Hunter's aging, um, I mean, not to be grim when I say like reaching the sort of end of life, just is a point when he's going to be much older.
Yeah.
I would love to know how their interactions are then. Because right now we know that Omega's going off on her own adventures. But maybe there's a point where she wants to come home and spend more time with Hunter while they have it. It's
But
something we think about, right? I mean, it's something we think about whether you're a child or a parent. You know, my parents are getting older, my wife's parents are getting older.
yeah.
Um, it's stuff that stays on your mind. I mean, I'm not trying to be grim either. Like, you
No.
know, I'm fortunate to say like everyone's doing well, but math is math and time is time.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that that's a great takeaway as well. Something really quick to that point. And again, I don't know if this is intentional. I tend to dig, maybe
Mhm.
add meaning that's not there. But on my most recent reread, I was really trying to look for like Crane Hunter, like parallel contrast. Um, and one that I thought was really interesting was when Sohai's getting away from Crane and the Marauder on Dalo, and it's kind of describes Crane as like staring with like this seething anger at her. Like, and Hunter describes it like it looked like he could like shoot up and like, add like a projectile into the ship. And comparing that to the way that Hunter reacts to watching Omega get captured in at the end of season two and how he's just devastated. Like there's not anger. Like all he can think about is losing his kid versus, Crane being frustrated because there's like difference between like ownership and then, like,
Mhm.
genuine care. I don't know. I read too much into that, but I loved
No,
it.
no. I mean, and it's similar to what I was saying about how I have seen the father-daughter relationships that make me like kind of sick to my stomach sometimes. Like, and it's the idea that you could have similar backgrounds, like Crane and Hunter likely have similar fighting backgrounds, similar warrior mindset, but Hunter is the gentler to, and you know, I'm being careful even saying gentler to the daughter figure because sometimes they're like siblings,
Yeah.
but in that relationship, he's the gentler parent than what a Crane is, even though there are a lot of similarities between them.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. To your random point, I think it's true. It's very funny. Hunter and Omega are funny, like father-daughter pairing because they are very father-daughter, but they also are very sibling.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
sometimes it shifts into older brother, and it's like okay,
yeah, yeah.
but then you get the father taste too.
And
Uh,
you know, it's I'm sorry, I
no,
won't
that's
stay
okay.
on this. I was gonna say it's sort of like the thing too. If you leave, if you leave the oldest sibling in charge of the house, they sort of take on the father role or the mother role, depending, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, that's exactly it. I think you nailed it. I'm the youngest of three, so
Yeah.
I have watched my siblings do that. Both of us. So now we're at that question kind of about season three. So I know the idea and a lot of the very early things happened before you knew about season three. Um, is there anything now, getting to know that season three, you did get to see it while, kind of working through it? Is there anything major that you would want to talk about of how season three influenced particular moments through the story for you? So I know we already kind of touched a little bit on the dream sequence and Hunter having this premonition, but if there's anything else, or even if you want to add to those, like,
Yeah. Well, one big thing because I didn't know what was coming in season three, like I didn't really have a good way to close the loop on Celia. And I floated a couple of ideas and like I said, we can do spoiler stuff, right?
yes.
Yeah. So like using Vader,
Mhm.
the whole thing there was I didn't know. Like for some reason, I thought maybe he might pop up at the end of the season, just because there was so much stuff that seemed to be leaning towards Palpatine's cloning program.
Mhm.
Um, I did not know if that would happen or not, so I didn't necessarily have a great way to close Celia out.
Right.
Um, though I had floated the idea to story team, and they were kind of, "We'll get back to you," that sort of.
Yeah.
And when he didn't show up, it I think really made it so I knew I could use him.
Yeah.
And then they said I could use them, and that was a fun moment for me. But that was like the biggest thing because I just didn't know if they were going to use them in the show or not.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I'll be fully transparent because I know you probably read my review and I was
Yeah,
initially like, I don't know how I feel, but it's grown on me a lot.
yeah.
It was like
Oh no,
one of my biggest things is because I remember we were all a little hesitant to see if Vader would cameo in this show only because
yeah.
you don't want to take too much attention away from the match, but I do think it works. And it made my dad, whose favorite character is Darth Vader, very happy. He was very
Well,
happy.
no, and I did see the review, and please don't. I was fine with that.
Okay.
I knew it was like a thing where like some people weren't really excited if he did
Yeah.
pop up in the show, but like me, like your dad, like me and your dad may be similar age.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
it was a little bit personal for me too, in the sense that one of the big things in the book is what we were just talking about. Math is math, time is time.
Yeah.
This is my second time writing Star Wars, and I was very conscious of I had yet to put a lightsaber in anybody's hand,
Yeah.
you know? And so when I got the green light to use Vader, that was just huge for me because there's no guarantee I ever get to write this stuff again.
Yeah.
And I wanted a chance to touch one of the iconic characters. I
Yeah.
mean, because for me, it's like the big. I might be off on the count. I'll say the big six. I might not be counting right, but I'm thinking, Luke, Leia, Han, Chewie, R2D2, C3PO, and then Vader. So
Yeah.
seven. Maybe I didn't still didn't count it right. I don't know. But my point is like it was like a really personal, um, gratifying moment. I mean,
Yeah.
I got Vader's lightsaber on the wall behind me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's just, and that's got to be a major pinch me moment. And like I said, it genuinely has grown on me a lot. Like it
yeah,
never had anything to do with you personally, or even how
yeah,
the story. I was too affected because I also sometimes get obviously I'm very involved in the Star Wars fandom as a whole as well. And like whenever people try to like plug, too much
yeah.
into like characters into space that don't fit, I'm like, oh, but no,
Well, I'll give you a little bit of a behind the scenes
okay.
bit too that sort of speaks to that. Like when in the very early stages when we were trying to figure out what the story was,
Mhm.
my initial pitch for Soha was that she be a surviving Jedi.
Yeah.
And I was talking to story team about it, and they were like, the only concern is if we put a Jedi in, it has the risk of taking away attention from the batch.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, well, maybe she's not a force user. What if she's a spy? And that ended up spinning out Crane's character.
Yeah.
So those little things pop up, and we're able to adjust and get something even better out of it.
Yeah. Well, because I know, people they have their ear to the ground. They know.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
it's not
yeah,
like people
yeah,
don't know. But I genuinely think that, well, and also just side note, I think that it's genius, that I understand why the motivation was there to make Sohai a Jedi because of Ponder, But do you
yeah.
think that Sohai would have been the Jedi who rescued Ponder? Or no, just a different one.
I think so. I think she would have been like his general.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
And like I said, I had a whole angle on it that I don't remember now. So it's like because that would have been like almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But I had like a whole backstory that could have worked, but being that we decided not to do it and we came up with what we came up with, I don't remember all the details. But I think she would have been his general.
That is literally that would have been everybody's dream too, because I don't know if
Hmm.
you know this, but especially like clone fans and like everybody, there's so many people who have either like OC or like canon like General X Jedi,
Yeah,
like General X like clone chip. Like there's that is probably one of the most popular. So I know but I mean what we got also worked very well.
yeah,
That's just it makes sense. I get it.
yeah,
Totally get it. And also speaking of Celia, I hope I said that right because I sometimes
yeah.
yeah.
I say Celia. I think that's how they use say it in the audiobook too.
Yeah, okay, right. Yeah, duh. But I part of the reason why Darth Vader is growing on me in this story is because Celia is such a horrible person. And I mean that like great character, horrible
Yeah,
person. That
yeah, she is. She's terrible.
there's not a more fitting fate than the cruelty of Darth Vader. So like
Yeah,
that makes sense. But speaking of her, so obviously she very casually mentions Sheev,
yeah,
Palpatine
yeah,
throughout the book. But one of the things that was really intriguing to me is that she mentioned specifically his house on Biss. And that's really big for lore because it was like one of the most crucial sites of what like his observatories. So I was just wondering, how did that planet specifically come into the fold? Was it just something that was like mentioned or
No, I don't remember where I read it. Like I don't can't remember if it was a novel or some comics,
Mhm.
but it was some point where I read some story about how this is very luxurious, but he uses it to kind of suck life force off his friends.
Yes. Yeah.
And and in my mind, I'm like, well, someone has to build that. Like he's not a I don't think he's building houses and structures like that. And it just occurred to me like it'd be neat to think
Yeah.
about more of the sort of infrastructure of the galaxy, like who builds the important stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's sort of so it just became a thing of like who builds the important stuff. And she's the type of person, she name drops them all the time. She it seems like she would brag if she's done anything for him. And it almost in like, he wouldn't have a home without me, that sort of
Yeah.
thing. And so it just felt appropriate. And given what happens on Biss, she's horrible enough to have a hand in that.
Yeah. Yeah. Which makes total sense. I personally don't have a ton of context for Biss, but I know like my boss, like as soon as he saw Biss, he went, Biss? Like he has all the connections like legends and everything. So I knew it was major. I was like, oh wow. So I don't even
Yeah.
know if he knew like how major it was, but he was very excited about it. So,
Yeah.
something good. But now we're gonna pivot to some of the questions I asked from some of the fans.
Sure.
Some of these are a little more rapid fire because I don't want to, take up your whole night. But these come from again people who are either in my Bad Batch Discord server, and it's not mine. I don't own it. I actually was invited. But Bad Batch Discord server, and then also fans from Twitter as well. So the first one is from Helo, who is an incredible writer, writes all of them, but especially Hunter, like perfectly. And they wanted to know for parallels, actually. So Sohai and Koru, and then Hunter and Omega, they seem to have several parallels at certain points, especially near the end of the story. Were those as intentional as the father and daughter parallels throughout the story with other characters? And is there any like commentary you want to add to that?
No, it was totally intentional because I really wanted a vibe of we need to save our kids.
Yeah.
And that's really just sort of a real world sense that I have that all the children are our children.
Hmm.
And we adults need to do what we can to save children. I
Yeah.
don't think every adult feels that way, but I do.
Yeah. What a beautiful way of putting that. And it's so true. It's so very true. And yeah, I actually love that in context. I feel like I can't even add much more to it because that I want to but now we're gonna ask or a question from Snail is their name and they make incredible art and they love Tech especially. They're just fantastic. So how would you characterize Echo or Crosshair also and their relationships to the batch? And then this is kind of separate, but how do you think Fee's relationship with the batch evolved during Tech's absence, if it did, post
Sure.
99?
So I hope the way I say this doesn't make people mad. I'm just saying it how I think of it. Um, I see Echo as like your favorite cousin who's almost a sibling. Um, you know, Like when like there's no differentiating him from a sibling, but he's maybe doesn't necessarily have the technical connection.
Hmm.
You know, that's how I think of Echo. And then Crosshair is the sibling who just does messed up stuff. He gets on your nerves, but
Yeah.
it's not like he can't come to cookouts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like he did what? Ah, love you, bro, but man, you be tripping. That sort of thing.
That's so perfect too, because that's like,
Mhm. And I have relatives like that. Like I'm speaking like about my own relatives too. Like so that feels fitting to me. And then as far as Fee, I believe they're bonded for life to Fee. And again, this is not anything that I have any power to do, but in my mind, just to give like a real world parallel, the sort of relationship they have, I could easily see something like say Fee met somebody down the road and had a wedding.
yeah.
Cone Force 99 would be sitting front row.
Yeah. That's so true.
Yeah.
I think that's very true. This question's from Evelyn, and she wants to know what helped you get into the headspaces of each member of the batch when you wrote them?
Oh, this part's pretty was pretty easy in the sense of having so many hours of their voices, like their actual voices, the voice work from the show.
Mhm.
All I had to do was like close my eyes and put an episode on,
Yeah.
you know, and just listen to them. And I could pull up any kind of particular scene. I didn't like I can't think of specifics at the moment, but it's all readily there. I got a window open. I have the show pulled up, so I could just sit back and listen to them talk, and it'd be like just sitting in a room with them and getting ready to tell a story they're relaying to me.
Yeah. That's really how it is. I
Mhm.
mean, like, one of my favorite principles as well, just that I use personally, is like if I can't picture a line of dialogue in their voice, if I can't hear it in their voice in my head, then it needs to change.
Mhm.
Yeah, listening to them, yeah, they really do. Really their own, like I feel like so they feel like such vivid, lively, real characters.
Yeah.
It's just so fun. Um, so in a kind of similar but a little bit different vein, Shayla wants to know that, as you said in interviews, and I know we discussed it, that Hunter was the easiest one for you to write because you related to him a lot. Um,
Mhm.
but kind of conversely, was there one of the characters who was challenging for you to write? And if so, how did you rise to that challenge? And that this could be like a member of the batch and or like one of the newer characters as well.
Crane was the hardest, particularly because of how casually cruel he could be
Yeah.
to Soha.
Yeah.
Um, that's just hard for me to imagine. Like I said, uh, I hate to say like I have a daughter because I think that's the lowest form of empathy where you have to have a relative for you to say this thing shouldn't happen. But like naturally, as I'm writing about someone who's treating someone like their daughter and then doing the things he does, that's kind of tough for me.
Yeah.
Um, and so that part was a little hard. And then Celia, I guess the villains overall, because Celia is just awful, and I needed to write her in a way where she doesn't think she's awful. She thinks she's doing the stuff she's supposed to do. Um, that's tough for me because obviously I don't agree, and I made her pay for
Yeah, as you should. As
it.
you should. Yeah. Yeah. Was there like any member? I know you said that writing the batch was easy. Was there like any particular member where you were like, "Ooh, this is kind of tricky"?
No, not so much. I mean, I just want to make sure I got tech right. Um,
He's
you
key.
know, because of what we know happens, it felt most important to give him the right moments. And I'm not gonna say it was difficult, but I spent the most time kind of fine tuning that, like even down to word choice. And
Yeah.
and that wasn't all me. It was me working with the editors and story team. But like, so like the most solid example I could give you is in like the first couple of chapters when they're at the auction house. He's got a line that says, "Things are about to get frenetic."
Yeah.
And so we went back and forth on even what word would close that sentence out. We were like, should it be hectic? Something else, something else. And so like we did a couple of iterations, like, does it sound like technical? And then we landed on frenetic and like that feels right. So it's that sort of level of
Yeah.
fine tuning things with him.
Yeah. Writing tech is like having a thesaurus pulled up
Yeah,
the entire
yeah,
time, and you're like,
yeah,
how do I say this? But I love that that weight of importance was really carried because you knew how much it meant, and especially because you knew that it was coming after that, and how now, like by the time the book came out, that was 2.5 years ago,
yeah,
so like
yeah.
that's how long we've gone without tech. other
Yeah.
than the comics that came out recently as well. So it's that's such a great testament to how much you really care, like how much heart and soul was really put into this, which is very meaningful to obviously me as a fan, and I know I speak for a lot of other fans as well. Um, so kind of similarly to my question about if you could write any future story for the Bash, but a little bit more contained is Ray wanted to know, because you got to choose which part of the show, between seasons one and two, like which pocket you wanted to write in.
Mm.
If you had to pick another part of the show to write for, just in the show timeline, what would you choose? And I'll include season three in this as well.
Hmm. That's a good question. I mean, we talked a little bit about alternate timelines, but if we're talking specifically within the time of the show. I
Yeah.
think your suggestion was a good one where you sort of cover that period when Omega's captured and Hunter and Wrecker are off doing whatever they're doing, trying to figure out how to find her. Um, I think the thing that would be tough for me writing that is I would miss having them together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I do think there's a lot of story to cover there. Um, or I mean, if I had to just do like say a short story, I wouldn't mind getting into some individual crosshair adventures.
Yes. I mean, I'd love to see her crosshair because, of course, we only got to see
Yeah,
like a little.
yeah,
The little we saw
yeah.
was great.
So like I said, I don't know what those stories would be, but I feel like that, there's enough time when he's on his own where
Yeah.
that you could probably like come up with something fun.
Yeah. I would love something fun. I would also, of course, I live for the angst between
Yeah,
Crosshair dynamic. I would love if there was like almost like a reversal where Crosshair has like a similar dream that Hunter has, you know?
yeah, yeah.
I think that'd be sweet. I don't know. Is
That'd
that
be
is
fun.
that is that something you thought about ever? Like, I wonder,
I mean, like if we're talking about writing Crosshair, I'm certain there's opportunities to address his feelings on the relationship with not even just Hunter, but with
yeah.
the others too. Um, I would imagine he's thought about it quite a lot as he's moving from place to place, doing the sort of dirty work he got into.
Yeah, I would love I feel like this is very like dark, but I would love to know how he found out about tech because it
Hmm.
really could have only been Omega who told him.
Yeah, yeah,
And that
yeah,
was probably a really hard moment. But anyway, yeah, anything with Crosshair, I feel like during that time, you're right, because there's so much off-screen time he has, especially in season one.
yeah.
And two. Like both of those, honestly. It was good he got some time in season three. But moving on a little bit. From Evie, we have a question just in general about the book. Is there any key theme or message you hope readers will take away from this book? Now, I know we kind of discussed that a little with keeping the children safe. But is there anything else, like any other key themes or anything you want people
Yeah.
to take away?
Don't wait to say the important stuff.
Yeah.
That's something I don't know how apparent it is from the outside, but I thought about it quite a bit with tech and feeds. Like I tried to really like sell that idea of if you got something important to say to someone you care about, you should go ahead and say it.
Yeah.
Um, because you I mean, it's this um again, not to be grim, but I make sure I kiss my daughter on the forehead and tell her I love her every single day.
Yeah.
That's very important to me. Same thing with my wife. That's very important. Because you just don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? I see that too. And I don't know if it was really well now knowing that it probably was intentional on your behalf with Hunter. Of course, he can't tell Crosshair he misses him in the dream intentionally because he didn't, it wasn't something
Mhm.
he didn't get to say anything like that before they separated on Camino at the end of season one. And then also when Omega says that she loves him and all the rest of them, he doesn't say it back. And we know that like she gets captured right after all the other stuff
Mhm.
happens, the tech. So I think that definitely for me that hits. Like I'm like, yes, that makes sense. You have to act now, speak now, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then our last fan question is from Julia, who's also another incredible writer. She wanted to know, well, she says you may not know this, but you're technically outside of random digital trading cards. You're the first to confirm Hunter's CT number in canon as CT9901. So we have Hunter CT9901, which feels, we all kind of knew that that was the case.
Yeah.
He's older and clearly the eldest, very eldest coded. But Crosshair is 9904, so now we know he's the youngest. Technically, Wrecker and Tech have theirs set. Like tech is 9902 and record is 9903. But because it hasn't been explicitly stated outside of a trading card, if you could pick, like, would you stick with that order or would you switch them around for tech and record?
Well, I, I, it's hard for me to answer the question, and here's why. Because I was told those were the official numbers.
Really?
Like going back and forth with Story Team, and maybe I use Wikipedia quite a bit too, so I
Yeah.
think it's there too. So this wasn't me assigning them myself. I thought that was
Yeah.
settled.
Yeah.
So um,
Wow.
I don't have any reason to change it. But I will say this, and you can look on my Instagram. I think I posted a picture a few weeks back. I have all of them on a shelf in my office, and
Yeah.
the order I have them in is Hunter, Record, Tech, Crosshair.
Oh.
So if I had to reassign, I'd probably swap um, Tech and Records numbers just to align with my shelf because that's the sort of
Makes sense because, and I don't know if you've seen this as well, but there's a very popular fandom headcanon as well that Tech and Crosshair are kind of like twins. Not like actually, well, I guess
Mhm.
like for some, yes, actually, but like everyone's like, oh, yep, the twins, because in Clone Wars especially, they were just doing like everything together, kind of, and they
Yeah,
look the most similar amongst the batch. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you know, it's funny, you've probably ever seen the CT numbers on Wikipedia from the trading cards, but like the trading, it's I love Star Wars, like genuinely,
yeah,
because stuff
yeah,
like this, it just happens. It just really, I don't think Tech or Hunter Tech and Record, their CT numbers were never said in the entire show, and I've
yeah.
never put in writing. Crosshair's the only one, so you were the first to put Hunter in writing. So there's if
I
you
do
didn't
it.
know
Well,
that,
I'm happy to contribute. I did not realize.
yeah. Well, that's all I have on my end in terms of my questions and fan questions. Is there anything that you would love to touch on that maybe we didn't get to discuss or like maybe an earlier discussion that you want to elaborate on or anything?
Well, not so much. I'll ask you a question. I know you have your annotated copy.
Yes.
Were you able to get one of the special editions that has the sprayed edges?
No.
So I have three of them, and you've been such a wonderful cheerleader for the book. I'm happy to send you one of mine. If you just shoot me a shipping address that works for you.
Yeah. Oh, that would be amazing. Thank you. That you did not have to do that. I tried to secure it, but they sold out really fast and I
No,
didn't.
no, it's my pleasure. I mean, because I mean, in my mind, you've been the most vocal of the advocates for the book. Like I said, I have noticed, and like I said, I got three of them. I don't need three of them. I have plenty of the regular edition, um, and I'm happy to share one of those special editions with you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's really nice of you.